Hey everyone, welcome to BlogWorld New Media Expo 2011 from New York City. I'm Adrian Zarian, and we are continuing our coverage of BlogWorld New Media Expo. And here with me is Bev Thorne, Chief Marketing Officer of
Century 21.
Surprise, right? I don't think anybody... It was a big surprise. When I saw Century 21 here, I said, wow, they have to be doing something really interesting and be here. You don't think of Century 21 when you think new media, right? Traditionally.
No, I think you're right. But, you know, think about it. Real estate is all about being close to the consumer.
Absolutely.
And to local business. And our buyers are clearly the consumers who are heavily engaged in new media.
Absolutely.
So really, it's our customers that brought us here.
When did Century 21 start doing the transition into being more vocal on the internet and really pushing new media as something that they're trying to do?
Well, you know, everybody knows the name Century 21. We are somewhat of an iconic brand in the American market, but I think it's also fair to say that, you know, people may have a general perception of us being perhaps an old and tired brand, if you will. And so it was really a part of the classic work that you do all the time to keep a brand fresh and in front of your consumers. So I'd say it was back in 2008, 2009 when we said, you know what, let's make sure we're really talking to the consumers that are engaged in buying and selling homes. And of course, in real estate, there's a bifurcation between those that are buying and those that are selling.
Yeah.
Typically, when you're selling, lots of people sell, but as a rule of thumb, you typically tend to sell a home. There are a lot of baby boomers selling homes, but it's not baby boomers buying homes. It's really the young Gen X and Gen Yers that are buying homes, and they're buying in a very different fashion, and they engage with media in a very different fashion than baby boomers. So as we look to say, well, hey, what does our brand mean to consumers? We looked at our Gen X and Gen Yers, and that's when we learned how important it was to be involved in new media.
What are some of the things that Century 21 has done in new media? You said communicating with the client, right? That's a major aspect of staying relevant with who's your market audience. What has Century 21 done to communicate and stay connected to?
Well, of course, the most basic is communicate via new media. I mean, it's open the conversation. It's talk with the consumers about the questions and issues they have. It's not an advertising medium. It is a communications medium. One of the fun things we've done recently, though, is really test some activity in social gaming, and found out that there are many, many consumers that are doing home purchasing virtually that mirrors exactly what we're doing in real life. So we've done some tests in that arena, and we continue to look at and explore the new frontier, if you will. Anything that helps the conversation between our agents get closer to the consumers that are engaged in the home buying activities.
On a corporate level, Century 21 has changed, has been doing new media, but on the employee level, on the agent level, are agents encouraged to communicate via Twitter and more social media type social networking sites? Is that something that they're encouraged to do to keep connected?
Sure, absolutely. You know, from a national perspective, of course, we put out kind of the standards and the encouragement on what we want an agent to do. We also have our own national blog, if you will. And what we do is we utilize things in those national blogs and our national tweets to be the catalyst for the conversation at the local level. However, as is really true, agents lead the way, consumers lead the way. So yes, while we've adopted and put out and we encourage engagement at the national level, the ones that are really, really active are at the grassroots level. It's the agents that are engaged in dialogue with their consumers, and it's the consumers who are reaching to the agent. So we're a company that's got 121,000 agents worldwide, and there is a segment of them that quite honestly was far ahead of the national position, and so we have both of that. We have the grassroots working, and we clearly have the encouragement from the national perspective as well.
Have you seen in New York City, the real estate market did take a hit, but it was in a kind of a bubble. Have you seen it start change over? How is new media affecting the rebound of the real estate industry and real estate market? Is there a connection right there?
Oh, there absolutely is. You know, we have companies like Century 21 American Homes in Long Island, Queens, etc. And we see that the conversations that they're having with their consumers, absolutely, that brings business. Because again, social media is simply communications. It's a different communications methodology. And the closer you are to the consumer and the more able you are to answer and address their questions with real life, genuine answers, expertise, etc., then the better position you're in to help them.
I think being at BlogWorld and conventions and expos like this for a company like Century 21 is vital, because when you're thinking new media, you're seeing all these names that you've never heard of, right? They're small companies and they're trying to come up in the business that they're in.
Sure.
But when you see Century 21, I think it brings a legitimate feel to another company that has even nothing to do with Century 21. I think even being around a company like Century 21 kind of elevates you, right? I mean, that's how I see it.
Well, that's good. I mean, we like that, obviously. Clearly, we're an iconic brand in the American market. Legacy of 40 years. Lots of firsts. One of the interesting things is Century 21 was first to do TV advertising for national franchise brands. And I think we view that as really critical for us to constantly understand how do we reach our consumers. And new media is the frontier these days. So
how do you, and this might be difficult. Now, my wife and I bought a home about 2 years ago. I actually bought my childhood house.
Did you
from my
really?
parents. I stayed in
cool.
Queens, I stayed in Bayside, and it's the house I grew up in, and we purchased it from my father.
How nice.
How are you catering to my generation other than new media? I mean, new media alone. Is there different tactics not tactics, but is there different methods in selling a home to me than that was used, 10, 15 years ago? Is that a form that's also evolving?
Sure, and that's what I meant when I mentioned earlier. Consumers, although yours is a unique situation,
a very
where you bought
unique
from
situation, yeah.
But typically the sellers are typically baby boomers, and guess what? They're not embracing social media in the same manner that the Gen X and Gen Yers are. So there's still a place for TV advertising and communicating with those consumers.
How about with buying? Not with selling, but are they embracing new media with buying?
Well, I want to be careful. No general rule applies anywhere. You know that it's people in the 55 and above age range that are the fastest pace of growth in use of Facebook. However, using it in truly, an incident use is very different than adopting it and using it on a regular basis. And it's really the Gen X and Gen Yers that are using it on a very regular basis. I laugh when I'm with some of those buyers and they talk about email. Like, email? No, of course I don't have an email address. And of course, to me, that's a very standard. I think of that as
you kind of need it, right?
Exactly.
You kind of need it to communicate nowadays.
Exactly. So yes, I do think I don't want to minimize the fact that it's a different communications technique. That is the difference. I mean, clearly our Gen X and Gen Y consumers are far more mobile. They don't do what their parents' generation did, which was, plan through the whole week. Oh, let's take a picture of that house. Let's put it on the table. And then by Sunday, you've got all the pictures of those are the 10 houses we're going to look at today. Not at all.
I remember growing up, my parents, I think they tried to sell the house about 3 times growing
up. Did they really?
Up. And each time it sold, and then they decided they don't want to sell the house. they were way too attached to the house. But I remember when they were looking for a home, that's exactly what they did. They planned out what they're going to go see, and then in 1 or 2 days, they went and saw 10 or 15 homes.
Right.
And when we had just gotten married and we were considering another place to live, we were looking at different homes all the time. We were just all over the place. We were going online. That was a huge role into what we saw. And we were really, it's exactly what you said, we were more scattered. It wasn't as planned out as I'm going to go see 10 or 15 homes today.
Yeah. Although I think in many ways it is a more focused search because you can learn so much more online now about a property. So when your parents were cutting out the pictures, all they knew was, the street view, right?
The street view and if the pricing was out there, maybe the square footage, that's about it.
And they rarely knew anything about the neighborhood. I mean, now you can go and literally see pictures of the park that's a mile away from the house. You can see the insides of the house. You can learn a tremendous amount. At the end of the day, though, you still need, real estate is local. You still need somebody to bring that home for you with the neighborhood expertise. But my point is that the home search process is so very different for a Gen X and Gen Y than it was for a baby boomer.
That's what I was going to bring up. So on a national level, Century 21 stays connected to the clientele that they're catering to, but on a local level, as far as listings go, how has Century 21 changed the way that they do listings? I guess more information has to be provided.
Absolutely, sure.
Than it was 10 or 15 years ago. But what are some other things that have changed and have evolved?
Clearly, the most important thing for a consumer looking at a house online is they want to see photos. Yeah. So it's really, really important. It's not the single photo of the curb appeal. It's the photo of the bathroom. It's the photo of the living room. It's the photo of the family room. It's the photo of the basement. It's also the photos of the neighborhood. It's also, a lot of consumers really want to see a video. They don't want to see just the still photos. So that graphic representation of the property has become incredibly important.
So as far as the video, what's done? Actually, that's the first time I heard that video is being implemented in selling a home. Yeah, I know that for years they use the 3D turnaround. You can see the room. But what are some things that they're doing with the video?
There's lots of technologies. I will tell you, though, that on the Century 21 national website, website, we literally have a video of every single property that's listed, assuming that the quality of the photos was appropriate enough and high quality enough. Right. So you can go and see every listing and watch that video and see the home. So it provides a far greater plethora of context of the home that someone is considering than has been in the past.
That's amazing. Now, to wrap things up, the goal of Century 21 online, the presence of Century 21 online, where do you see it in the next 2 years? Where do you see it evolving?
Okay, I see us increasing our online visibility. Clearly online is where our consumers are. And if you think about it in the past, one of the reasons why the Century 21 brand has become so iconic is because we embraced TV. And I'm talking about 30 years ago. Absolutely. That was the medium that our consumers were consuming. Well, the media that they're consuming now is the social media. So we are actively engaged, testing new frontiers. One of the primary areas is local. Real estate's always been local, but now you talk about some social media sites like a Foursquare. We are pushing the edge of the envelope to find out the appropriate means to be engaged at the really hyper local level to assist agents in building their businesses up. And
that's amazing. When again, I'm going to say it again. When I saw Century 21 was here, I wanted to speak to someone because I found it so interesting that a non-new media company is embracing new media, and that really is what it's about. That's the importance of this.
Exactly, and that's the interesting thing, because new media for new media's sake is not the objective of anybody in the technology space. And I think it's a perfect marriage of that technology and that capability being inserted into that buying, selling process, and it works beautifully. It's been a terrific marriage.
It really does. Bev Thorne.
Yes.
We discussed don't call you Beth. Don't call you Ben. Bev Thorne, the Chief Marketing Officer of Century 21, century21.com.
Exactly.
People go check it out.
www.century21.com. Absolutely.
It's amazing to see this, and I'm really happy that you stopped by here and you did an interview with us.
Thank you so much. This was great fun. All right.
And we'll be back with more from BlogWorld 2011 from New York City. We'll be back right after this.